Hello indie game fans, you may know that I love my pixel art since in its modern form has produced some of the most beautiful visuals that I have seen. So let's take a look at 15 gorgeous games that you can play right now, some of which I've mentioned before, but I would like to give some updates as we go along. Special mention goes to Owlboy, who is one of the best known examples of high-bit pixel art, where I removed it from the main list to make room to show off some other games. Let's begin with Dead Cells, a game which is technically pixel art but has modern technology incorporated into it, and in a way that's probably similar to Shovel Knight, might actually be a 3D title but where the camera is positioned such that you think is 2D. The self-styled Roguevania is a roguelite platformer with great feeling combat, adding a hint of Metroidvania style progression and unlocking alternate paths, but definitely more on the roguelite end of things. Since we last talked about this, the developers have released new DLC, both free and paid, including The Bad Seed and Fatal Falls, with a player population that's still very healthy 4 years after launch. Our first new game on the list is Noita, another side-scrolling roguelite platformer that is simply a technical marvel. This is a game where every single pixel is simulated, meaning that it will act in accordance to the laws of physics and simulation in this game, whether it be gravity, burning up from fire, exploding due to hazardous gases, getting wet with water, and so on. The innovative Magic Wand system also provides plenty of variety in allowing you to mix and match upgrades, which can lead to some overpowered, if hilariously catastrophic outcomes as well. I think that in the overall big picture sense, this game can be quite a beauty to look at, if only to admire the simulation in this, but if you zoom in on individual elements, it can look quite ugly to some, but it's a title worth a mention nonetheless.
Hey, I'm up for the task.
A title that I was really looking forward to was Wargroove, a turn-based tactics title that is very classic in design, released at a time when tactics games were not so common, being a tribute to Advance Wars but with a fantasy theme. While the four factions do share many of the same units, only differing in physical appearances, the strategizing of this game is pretty great and I just love the design of the units. The developer did release a free DLC titled Double Trouble, with a new faction, a new co-op campaign, 2 new units and more, so check it out if you have not. Even in 2021, I still really admire the look of The Eternal Castle Remastered, a game released in 2019 and was supposed to be a remaster of a game from 1987 with the 2-bit CGA look. However, the original game never existed, and while the developer did get some flack for that, I think that it's amazing how they managed to capture that look so effectively, and more importantly, that they dared to release something that looks like this in 2019. It's a cinematic action platformer with more of a focus on combat, but in terms of where to go and what to do, this game is quite cryptic in the sense that it leaves it up to you to figure it out. If you can believe it, Cyber Shadow did release earlier this year in January, where the past 9 months or so have been pretty crazy, but I'm glad to have you along for the ride. This is an action platformer and not a Metroidvania, although there is some backtracking, where you play as the sole survivor of a ninja clan, having to unlock the secrets of your clan's ancient powers and to defeat the villain and his synthetic army. The action is simply fantastic, with a real throwback look as well, making it a no-brainer for the list. I like to include Touhou Lunar Nights in videos like this, since it does just show the versatility of pixel art as a medium, having quite a distinct look. This of course is based on characters from the Touhou project, but in contrast to the shoot-'em-up games that the series is known for, manages to translate those mechanics into a Metroidvania. While pixel art that lacks an outline usually doesn't do it for me, it is undeniable that the look here is gorgeous, with a tremendous amount of detail going into things like the trees and foliage, not to mention great enemy and boss designs. Brazilian developer Joy Masher is definitely a studio to watch if you love pixel art, since their creations always look fantastic, with the example here being the run-and-gun platformer Blazing Chrome. It has one of the most straightforward story setups in games, where humanity has been driven to the brink of extinction by robots, so grab a friend and kick some metal butt. This is very similar to Contra Rogue Core in terms of action and difficulty, where you should expect to see a game over screen or two before you're done with this game. As a Genesis kid myself, I do have a soft spot for games that look like this, so of course this gets a spot. Another recent release that impressed me both in action and in cutscenes is Steel Assault, a long-in-development action platformer where you play as a resistance soldier fighting against the army of a dictator. This is as advertised based on the trailer, being an arcade run-and-gun platformer with some clever ideas of its own, and would not be out of place if compared to Metal Slug or Gunstar Heroes, having some of the best 16-bit pixel art look that I've seen in recent memory. Controls and tools are rather straightforward, without RPG or progression systems that seem to find their way into all games these days, so this was a breath of fresh air in that regard. Fantastic character portraits as well, making this a real treat for the eyes. If you love Metroidvania games and have not already gotten Iconoclasts, what are you doing? Go get it right now on my recommendation, since this is one of the best in the space, and as of the time this video goes live, it's 70% off on Steam for a couple more days, so do not miss this window. It is set in a society where a religious authority lords over everything, and it is illegal to be an unlicensed mechanic where you just happen to be one of these and want to help others with your wrench while pissing off the wrong people. This is one of the most colourful and vibrant games out there, and yet the explosion of colours works and does not clash, so hats off to the developer for managing to pull this off.
People fear what they don't understand, and in death, you will learn.
A gorgeous game that got even better is the 2D Souls-like title Death's Gambit, releasing a free DLC expansion titled Afterlife just a couple of weeks ago, which added more content and reworked many of the core systems, polishing it up rather nicely and is not to be missed.
We were deceived. Death can't protect us.
As can be seen, it is very much like Dark Souls, almost to a fault, with the classically grimdark world as well as giant horrific bosses.
Imagine what you could do if you were free.
Beautiful pixel art as well, which is tremendously detailed, making it not to be missed for fans of the genre.
You remember our deal, don't you?
The next title will be familiar to long-time viewers of the channel, since Flynn, Son of Crimson has been on my watch list for many years, finally releasing last month, and I'm happy to report that it's pretty good. It's a beautiful and fluid, level-based action platformer where you play as an orphan, having to awaken the power of Crimson within him in order to save the world. The combat in this is simply awesome, with a nice variety of weapons and progression to keep you playing. From this beautifully made trailer, you can see the variety in environments, enemies, and the sheer beauty of the pixel art, making this another no-brainer for the list. Ninjas and samurai are very popular characters for side-scrolling action platformers, with the example here being Katana Zero, one with the amazing modern high-bit pixel art due to the use of lighting and the tremendously detailed backgrounds and environments. Being a Devolver Digital published title, of course it has some strong Hotline Miami vibes where the intense one-hit kill or be killed action and the ability to rewind time for an instant retry is part of the gameplay loop. One of the most interesting parts of this game is the way that it tells its story, where you go into therapy in between levels and recount what happened in a choose-your-own-adventure kind of style, which is something different in the space. If you've been following along on the channel, it will be no surprise that Eastward makes the cut, one of the most hotly anticipated Zelda-style action-adventure games that immediately captured the attention of many when it was first revealed. I'm also happy to report that this is pretty good and very popular, quickly garnering 7,000 Steam reviews, so if you love games like this, be sure to check this out. On the aspect of the pixel art, I love how this game looks, especially in the cities and in the natural environments, where the amount of detail in each is simply astonishing. While the NPC characters can be a little generic, this is a gorgeous game which feels Zelda-like in nature without being an outright copy, earning a well-deserved spot on the list. One of the games that has stuck with me since last year is Star Renegades, a sci-fi roguelite RPG where you play as rebels fighting against a galactic empire, having the power of alternate dimension hopping as the setup for the roguelite structure. Needless to say, the pixel art is one of the main draws of this game, with some of the enemies and bosses having hundreds of frames of animation, which, combined with the timeline manipulation, JRPG turn-based combat, makes this a treat. Since we last talked about this, the developer has released a number of free DLCs named Enter the Dragoon, The Imperium Strikes Back, Total Lunacy, and Guardian of the Metaverse, so if you have not played this since launch, please go back and check it out.
Faceless warrior, stay thy course.
For the second year running, Blasphemous comes in at the #1 spot, since I really do think that it's an amazing feat of work, managing to use pixel art to conjure up grotesque bosses and enemies that are on par with your worst nightmares from the Soulsborne games. It's a grimdark entry where you play as the Penitent One, a character with one of the most iconic designs due to the very tall spiral helmet that they wear. Drawing upon the Catholic faith and the Spanish Inquisition, the horrors that are committed in the name of religion, and themes of penance and revenge, this is one of the most disturbing entries thematically, which does translate into the art. This developer has been very busy since the release and tremendous popularity of this game, releasing 2 huge free updates titled Stir of Dawn and Strife and Ruin, even announcing during Gamescom that the free final DLC named Boons of Eventide is coming in December and that Blasphemous 2 is in development. As such, it's an amazing team due to the tremendous value that they have delivered, not to mention that they have one of the sickest pixel art styles out there, and while nothing has been revealed about the sequel, I do hope that it's still pixel art since I simply want more, taking the #1 spot. For more pixel art titles, watch these videos and I will see you after the jump.